Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas W1DED, and this is Q5 Ham Radio. In episode 3, we talked about evaluating station and operator performance using real contest experience versus casual operating. In this episode, Mark K1RX and I focus on expectations. We discuss how location, physics, and participation levels influence results, and how setting realistic goals keeps contesting motivating instead of frustrating. Q5 Ham Radio is supported by DX Engineering, supporting operators wherever they operate from. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you. Good to be back again, Kevin.
So I've been looking forward to this episode, expectations. I think that's what it's sort of all about when we get into contesting. I know we always talk about it being fun. Obviously, that is critical, but if we're competitive, we want to set goals, and those goals can be based upon winning CQ Worldwide, or it could be a goal set upon beating my neighbor up the street. But let's dive into this. Tell me more about expectations.
Expectations. A lot of people have asked me over the years. I put this station together. I tried operating these contests, and I got very frustrated. I mean, I just couldn't make contacts, or it just didn't turn out the way I was hoping. And I was really disappointed. I had these great expectations of being on the air, and people would be calling me, and it'd be a beautiful thing. And turned out it was a lot of work. It really does make a difference in setting a realistic goal here. Again, you want to be open-minded. You always want to have a mind toward continuous improvement. What else can I do here to make this more enjoyable and not a pain or a difficult thing? So you always want to keep that on the top of your head as you go forward. So you want to take advantage of every contest that comes along. You know, granted, there might be some out there that just don't make sense, but try them anyway, you know, as I said before in one of the earlier episodes. And this is all learning experience. And it's going to expose you to, again, your weaknesses and strengths, both you as well as your station and your antennas. So you want to pick, ideally, some contests that have a lot of participation. You want to have a large target audience that you want to go after. That's how you realistically want to go at it. Now, as you go through these contests, and say you've operated CQ Worldwide now twice, maybe now is the time to think about setting a goal. You know, like you've seen how your station performs. Here's your score from last year or the year before. I've made some incremental changes, and that's nice, but maybe I should try and go for that 1,000,000 points or the 1,000 contacts in a weekend, which, you know, when I first started thinking about this, it seemed to be so unrealistic. Like, how in the world could I ever achieve that? I mean, I could barely talk to somebody down the street, and now now the expectation is making 1,000 contacts in a weekend. That just seems so unnatural. So it's, again, setting the reasonable goal here is based on a cumulative experience that you've had with your equipment, your station, and that's really the right thing to do. But at some point, or maybe prior to that, it makes no sense to do that. You're still in the exploratory stage. Let's just get on, participate, see how I do, learn about my station, and learn from that. Okay, the next contest. Okay, now I want to set a realistic goal. I think I should probably consult with some other people that have been doing this contest as well, and kind of bounce some ideas off them. Do you think this is unrealistic? You know, me setting 1,000, making 1,000 contacts in a weekend with all my constraints, like, I can only really operate about 10 hours a day. I can't do the full time. I've got other life things that I have to deal with, walking my dog, doing some shopping in the middle of the event. You know, how do I marry all that in and still have a good time? So it's good to kind of convey that to someone who's been in that boat, has that experience, has operated. And they might come back and say, well, based on my understanding of your equipment and your antennas, maybe just operate the first few hours every morning when the band's open to Europe. You know, say for a CQ contest, a CQ Worldwide, from the East Coast. Now, granted, you know, your mileage may vary, depends on where you're located. Try and pick some times where there's a high activity level. You know, if you're one to like, you know, I'd rather play the contest where I like the weak signals, I like challenging myself to work somebody on the other side of the world on the low bands, on 80 meters or whatever it might be. And I don't mind that I might make 20 contacts per hour, but that's okay. That satisfies me. That's what I'm looking to do. And there's so many things that you can do, you know, with all the different bands and all the opportunities we have. You can pick whichever direction you want to go. But the goal is to get into, ideally, if you really want to grow and really get that adrenaline going and create that incredible, multi-year addiction that takes over, is you want to get into the contests that have a tremendous participation levels, and where you're going to make a lot of contacts. Say in 2 or 3 hours, you're going to make 200 or 300 contacts. That's great. And then go off and do your own thing and come back and catch another slice of the weekend. But there are other factors that come into play in terms of setting expectations. We can talk about that.
Before we get into that, talk to me about category selection. I don't think it's something we've had a chance to chat about before, but I certainly understand very basic goals. Like, I'm going to get on and I'm just going to operate. I know when I went down to Turks and Caicos last year, my goal was just to finish a 48-hour contest. I've also interviewed people that choose categories carefully or overlay categories. How do you feel about that?
That's a great approach. Look at the rules for the contest, whatever you want to enter, and look at the categories. And there are, they've done many of these contest sponsors have done a great job in organizing the contest so that you can kind of compete in your own category or compete in your own level of experience or station quality or, call it budget, call it whatever you want. But they've done a nice job in slicing it up such that you can do well in the QRP category, low power, under 5 watt. Work the whole contest running 5 watts and you make a couple hundred contacts. It may sound painful. It may sound, a lot of time spent, but hey, it's you. It's what you're doing, what you're enjoying. You want to kind of look at it from the perspective of, I know how my station works. Here's a contest that it looks like my antennas will give me a favorable signal strength into those population centers that are important. Be it Europe or being, say, a domestic, a U.S.-based contest where all you really want to work is just stateside. Well, my low 40-meter dipole, 30 feet, whatever it is, my 100 watts, I can do pretty well domestically. I can't do great DX-wise. So that's fine. Focus on that. Focus on where your fun is going to be obtained. And having that experience with a station, having played with a number of contests, you get a sense now of where I think I can have the most fun. So then start specializing in some of the ones you really enjoy. I've had people come to my house and operate contests for relatively, a long period of time and a pretty good seriousness that they're trying to apply. And some of these contests they've never operated before. I had a teenager come to the house, wanted to do sweepstakes, CW sweepstakes. That's pretty challenging. There's a lot of information that's exchanged. You can lose the contact or the credit for that contact if you get one thing wrong out of this string of information. It's on code. This guy didn't have great code speed. He was still learning, but still doing pretty well. He came out of that weekend of operating 24 hours with such a fresh view where he could now look back and say, I think this is my favorite contest. And he'd never done it before, but he just experienced such a great time, had such a good score as a result. It was a struggle. It really challenged him to work, to get the exchange information correct, but it all played toward, having fun. Sometimes when you challenge yourself, just like in athletics or something, you challenge yourself to run a fast race to be successful or to break your record. Yeah, it was hard, but you did it, and that made it even more fun the next time around, and you challenge yourself further. So that's how a lot of these things can kind of evolve and take root in somebody in a very passionate way. That's something that needs to be rolled into the equation.
So, Mark, I know you're a member of the YCCC.
Yankee Clipper Contest Club.
I've got to believe that probably has affected your goal setting, your own expectations in contests. Talk to me about that. Does joining a contest club or finding a group of like-minded ham radio operators, does that help in the process?
That is immense. That is huge. I started contesting, I think I did the usual field day kind of scenario with some local radio club, and I can't even remember the club, quite honestly. Then I put up some antennas at my own house. I think this was in New Jersey, and started operating some and learned a lot. And there wasn't, as I recall, many contesters that I was familiar with in that area. And then I went to college and had the opportunity to play in a club station at the college. And I started playing around more with these contests. One of the members of that college radio club said that he was also a member of this group called Murphy's Marauders. They were based in Connecticut. I was going to school in Massachusetts. He said, they hold meetings on Thursday nights, but, we could carpool down. It's only a 2-hour drive or something. It's like, yeah, let's do it. So I went down there, got introduced to all kinds of people that were way more experienced. And it was a phenomenal experience to get started with a club. There's so much knowledge concentrated in one spot. Nowadays, the availability of that knowledge to a new person, it's so much nicer, so much easier. You can join Groups IO at a contest club, make connections there, post questions. You'll get fantastic answers, great guidance in terms of what to do next or how to resolve a problem. There is such a level of experience. I mean, it's kind of immeasurable that I see, and it's such a positive thing. And it really feeds that connection, curiosity, and the control theme. Being connected to so many people or networking with so many people of a like mind. It's kind of like there's so much stuff here at first brush. It's like I don't think I'll ever learn or know this stuff quite the way these people know it. But in time you do. And that's the beauty of a lot of this stuff. It just grows. And it's all part of this lifelong experience. But being associated with a radio club that has that kind of intensity, it's huge. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And everybody's got similar issues. I mean, the overarching goal, be competitive, get better on certain bands, have a stronger signal, better, whatever it might be, to elevate their score. That's what we're looking for. And have everybody with that common challenge. Everybody's got a million different solutions, and that just, feeds this whole addiction like you read about. But I've now been with the Yankee Clipper Club since its inception, 1977, and was at one point president of the club for about 7 or 8 years. And it was challenging to keep all 300 or 400 members kind of moving in the same direction. We had some overarching goals of try to beat another club down the road. And we had a long stretch of a winning season, year after year after year, we'd be winning. And then things changed, as they always do. We're talking human beings and life issues. So people drift away, they come back and, different experience. So bottom line is it's a variable, but that's okay. But in my stretch of being president there, we were able to be quite successful in, beating the competition from a club perspective. From an individual competitive perspective, sure, we were still doing great. A lot of our top performers were doing spectacular, as I always did. But we had this large cadre of newcomers in the club that were contributing. It was really the smaller scores that really made all the difference. The person that could only spend 2 hours on the weekend, but he made 100 points or 1,000 points or whatever it is, that goes into the club competition bucket. And you keep doing that enough times, suddenly you've got millions of points, and you're now, really at a competitive level. You can't just win it on the top scores, in a club competition. And we learned that, early on in this whole setting up of these clubs, that you really need that cadre of people at the bottom. So we absolutely encourage the new people coming in to do it the way we did it, learn as you go. It's a lifelong thing, and just enjoy the ride.
Mark, talk to me about location when it comes to goal setting. I've obviously talked to a lot of contesters. There's a dramatic difference between the situation we have, me here in Maine, you in New Hampshire, in W1. I've talked to contesters that are in Washington State, they're in Arizona, they're in Colorado, and they have a unique set of circumstances to compete at the national or even international level. I just finished the CQ Worldwide series where People like Dan N6MJ and Chris KL9A are in Zone 33, and Brazzo E770X is in Colombia. Definitely a location issue. How do you deal with location when it comes to goal setting so that you feel good about your effort and not get discouraged because you can't possibly beat somebody in Zone 33, for example?
You're right. Location has a lot to do with the success one gets in this aspect of the hobby. If you're lucky enough to be on a mountaintop surrounded by seawater in an area of the world where every contact with you is very high value for points, probably the perfect setting. And what you're describing with guys being in Zone 33, here's a situation where in that particular contest, where you are, you represent 3 points to the Europeans, and you represent 3 points to the U.S., where somebody in the Caribbean, say in Puerto Rico or Virgin Islands or whatever it might be, you're only 2 points to the U.S. Yes, you're 3 points to Europe, but you're a little different distance. So your location's going to play a little bit there. It's always kind of fun to kind of dream about where would that perfect location be if I wanted to set a new world's record. Where would I go in the world? Well, you want to go where you get maximum points. You've got good signal strength into those critical high population areas. And if they're all high point value, that just plays perfectly to your dream. And, I've fantasized over the years of, really the best place. As you look at the scores and the competition over the years, and the results, and you see these massive scores coming out of these different parts of the world, you quickly become aware of the fact that, location really does have a huge play in this. If you're really trying to, set some sort of point, score level that's unattainable by most. And by having that in your head kind of makes you think about maybe world travel. I'd like to go to a Caribbean island and experience these big pileups. Once I've done it at home, I kind of get a taste of it. But I know there's so much more that I could do. So I go to VP5E, for example, and it's a world of difference from operating in Maine. Location, it can be a challenge. The first place you bought before you even got into the hobby, or the first place you landed, being an apartment in downtown Chicago, how am I going to compete in this world and in contesting? Okay, you probably won't in that setting. But the nice thing about this aspect of the hobby and the fact that the people participating are so welcoming you and so welcoming to have you potentially come to your station and operate, problem solved. Just go somewhere else. If your location's not that good, that's okay. Enjoy what you got, practice on different things. But when it's time to really go do something you really want to enjoy in a contest, maybe consider going somewhere else. And that in itself is another whole level of experience. And that can help quite a bit in your growth in this hobby.
Mark, when it comes to goal setting, I've heard a lot of different theories on this. Some people only set a top line goal. Other people break it down by band. Some people even get as far as setting rate goals for various times during a contest. What's your instinct? Top line only, or drill down a little bit deeper?
Top line is good. I'm here for the fun. That may fly in the face of all these high-flying competitors that you've interviewed here. But to each their own. And I enjoy, participating, making a lot of contacts. And you know what? If I win that category, great. I'm kind of, I won't say embarrassed to say, but I've got a few file drawers full of awards and some plaques and whatever from past contests. But, hanging them on the wall and putting those in front of me and stoking my ego, I don't really need that. I'm a easygoing guy that just enjoys the fun. So I like that, but I also enjoy the technical aspects of putting together a station, the station design. How do I help an operator hopefully way better than me, that can talk to people at very high rates and are phenomenal keyboarding skills. They can their hands can just fly. Me, I'm sort of in the semi-search and pounce kind of mode, or the seek and ye shall find keyboarding skill level. That in itself kind of slows you down. To be able to put together a station that someone else with a lot of skill can come in and really take advantage of, that brings a lot of joy to me. And I did that for 20 some odd years at a previous location, multi category. I had 5 stations, and in one weekend, I think my wife counted 20 people that were at the house operating a contest. And to be able to facilitate that and be lucky enough to have a reasonable location to support that kind of thing, multiple towers, 16 Yagis, all of that stuff, radios, amplifiers. My kids used to think it was an FAA control center that they were walking into in the shack when they'd come down. That aspect is fun. But there's just so many different elements to contesting as a whole that you can really put a passion into. You can be the guy that just does all the antenna work. You like to climb towers. I like to, put up big antennas for the station that's going to really take advantage, or help with the strategy of the antenna design and the implementation, the IT aspects of it. Nowadays, computers, remote operation, networking, there's immense amount of issue in that area. And what's kind of interesting is a number of people in the contesting world have kind of risen to the top in those certain pillars of, contributing elements to this thing. The IT, somebody who's an excellent IT network guy, well, those guys are invaluable. Maybe they can't work more than 50 people an hour because they're just not comfortable or haven't practiced enough. That's okay. They're offering value to the group and in ways that are incredible. So everybody's got a potential place in a multi-operator environment. Maybe we're getting ahead, but there's a segment we want to talk about, the value of going there if you can't operate from home, or you can only operate certain contests from home and get some good reward for it. It could be just, for me in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire QSO party happens, one weekend a year. I can get on and people are looking for me. I don't have to really work hard to have, to go around and find people and struggle to hear. There's other events too, special events that occur. There's this thing going on this month of January called Worldwide Award, WWA. Started by the Italians, I believe, and it was all kind of crafted around a new logging program. And it was fantastic the way they set that up, where everyone in the world that's an activator is all linked together, and everybody can see their score or see their log entries as they're going in real time or near real time. Like every few seconds, another 20 call signs appear on this log. And it gave me, as an activator, a real stress test. When you think about you're being spotted, on the internet, people around the world are looking for you because they want to get the points, and every day they can talk to you and get those points. It's a little different scenario. It's an award-based kind of thing. It's not a contest. But the skills that you've developed in the contesting part of it, with the running and being able to be efficient on your keyboard and the logging, all that comes to play in even special events like this. I was averaging probably 300 QSOs per hour on a Wednesday morning or whatever on 10 meters. And it was all based on this WWA thing. So in that stress testing, and I did that for an entire month, I made thousands of QSOs. I mean, it sounds crazy, but there were just so many people seeking this award or trying to raise their standing. Every day you'd see your standing on this website. In the first few days, I was number 1100 and something. But as time went on, I went up to number 100. Now I'm up around 10. Hey, you know what? I'm in the top 10 of this event. If I just get on every day and talk to these same people, my score will rise, and I get a nice award at the end.
I'm worried that I'm keeping you away from that right now. You could be dropping to 12 right now.
There's a lot of stress. Yeah, but you get things like that are amazing opportunities. And if you can become an activator, it's great. If you're a hunter, that's okay too. It gives you the ability to practice every day your pileup breaking skills. This event is such an event where every day you're talking to the same people. You know, as soon as the clock clicks over 00, everyone is new again. There are no duplicates. You know, so even though your logging program may show duplicate every single day on the same person, that doesn't mean that in this kind of event. You get to a point where you could almost do a roll call. That's kind of what my thinking was. Every day I could just get on, okay, OE9XYZ, DL3XQU, you're next. You know, and if you're not there, that's okay. But, you know, I could get some order to the pileup because every single day the pileup was immense. It was just complete and utter bedlam. But wow, did that test me personally and my skill to manage that. And it was incredible. But I learned a few things. I learned some shortcomings in my station. When I'm running at that kind of speed, I don't have access. I can't take my hands off the keyboard fast enough or quick enough to get over to switching an antenna to favor another part of the world. Because like I mentioned, you're spotted on the internet. Everyone in the entire world is calling. Now, they may not have propagation, but they're calling anyway, or they're trying. Even if they get a little piece of your signal, it's like, if this guy can hear me, I get points and I can get this award. Fantastic. So during that event, I was getting calls from all over the world that I had no idea there was propagation to. It just completely floored me. And some of the hints were, I'm talking to, say, Europeans from W1 land, and, you know, there's no flutter, the signal is solid. But occasionally in the pileup, I'd hear this fluttery kind of signal. Well, I knew that that was coming in over the North Pole or over a polar path. That's going to be something interesting. I should pause for that guy and see who's calling me. And it turns out it's, you know, India or some Indonesia or station or, you know, wherever. But again, a place that I hadn't really considered. It's really remarkable that you can get that exposure. You know, even in the simplest of stations, you discover, you know, this 40-meter dipole I thought was okay for certain things, maybe domestically. I'm getting called by Australia. Or I'm getting, you know, this is unbelievable. So it kind of stress tests the station in a nice way. Great experience.
What I love about what you're talking about, this is an episode about goal setting and expectations. And you're bringing it right back to why we all got involved with Ham Radio to begin with. Kind of that wonder of, I can't believe I can hear this person. I can't believe I can talk to this person around the world. It's the fun of it. So I appreciate that. I think it's probably a good place to stop. Anything to add on the idea of goals and expectations?
Well, the point you raised about the surprise is kind of the magic of radio. And that gets to that word curiosity. You just, you know, it gets your mind thinking about the possibilities and to be able to be inserted in this kind of way. It's a remarkable opportunity, and you definitely want to consider it.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you joining me again today.
Thanks for having me again. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. This is Q5 Ham Radio. I've been talking to Mark K1RX. Today's episode was about goal setting and expectations, but inevitably it always comes back to having fun and curiosity. Thank you for joining us. 73.